2022 City Council meeting. If we would all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jackie, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Hewlin.
Here.
Parker.
Present.
Talby.
Here.
Schroeder.
Present.
Beach. Richardson.
Present.
Mayor Harrison.
Present. We will now move on to the public comment section of our meeting. If there's anything you'd like to talk about that is not on the agenda, you can come forward now, state your name and address, and state what you'd like to say. Brian, are you here for North 9?
Yes.
I'll have you come up when we get to there. That's okay. Thanks.
Thanks, sir.
Anyone? Oh, yep, come on up.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Krause, owner of Krause Cafe at 115 East Salem. And I'm here to speak about the handicap spot that we used to have in front of our business, and they had to put it down at the corner because of ADA regulations, which we understand. But we have many customers that are not able to walk that distance because of lack of oxygen or the strength to walk it. We had so many people asking that we did put a sign-up sheet out, and we have 18 pages with over 400 signatures. And they're not just the people that want the spot there, but they want it there for others that they're with. We have customers that have to sit as soon as they get in the door, or ones that drive around the block numerous times to find a parking spot. And we've had a few that even have us park their vehicle for them. And we don't feel that it would only benefit us, but our neighboring businesses, because there's not another handicap spot to the west, except for the inside corner of the square by the courthouse or Justice Center. Anyway,
Each corner. So like yours is right by the movie theater, correct? Right in front of you.
yes.
And then where would the next closest one be? Would that be like by Campbell?
It's the inside
Oh, the inside
of the
corner.
southeast corner of the
Okay.
square. Yeah, so, I mean, so yeah, even for, Roots and Mishmash and all of those business. And yes, there are some spots across the street in the parking lot, but a lot of people, they need that close spot. Anyway, so we're requesting that we have an additional, and I spoke to Charlie DeSalle about it, and he said they tried to get him to agree to a spot right where it was in front of the restaurant and use the alley as a ramp, which is great. But they wouldn't agree to that. It had to be down at the corner. So we're just asking for an additional spot.
And is that something that maybe you and Charlie can look at and follow up with Rhonda about?
Sure,
See
we'd be happy to take a look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
best breakfast in town. Give a shout out to you guys.
Thank
You
you.
just got an invitation for breakfast tomorrow.
I mean, they got all sorts of great food. I think actually the best pie in Iowa at one point, wasn't it? Cherry pie. Cherry pie, yeah. So good shout out. Thank you so much. All right, is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
I would like to right quick piggyback on what Rhonda had to say, because I notice I'm very aware of handicapped situations, and there are no handicap parking places near the southwest corner of the square. The one on Salem is clear down at the other end of the block in front of a residence. And the ones on the inside of the square are down about halfway down the block. And there's just nothing close to the corner sundry.
It's good to know. I mean, I'm glad that we have people who will bring these issues to us to look into.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't say my name and address. Kathy Stanfield, 407 West Salem, Ashland.
Thank you, Kathy. Anyone else? All right, we will move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be pulled?
Mayor, I need to pull claims.
Okay.
Item G and H, please.
All right. Can I get a first and second motion to approve everything except for claims, items G and item H?
Second.
Thank you, Jackie.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Dalby.
Aye.
All right. Can I get a first and second motion to approve the claims?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Jackie.
Councilmember Dalby,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Recuse.
Parker.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to item G, that Steve requested pulled. Can I get a first and second to approve, and then we'll move into discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All right. Steve, would you like to
Yeah.
start off the conversation here?
Talking, and maybe Charlie wants to come up and talk at the podium here. I guess my question is, when we did the initial survey, or the engineers did the initial survey of the underground, I know there's been things they found afterwards. And then when this water line was put in, if we have that information, you know, when they did the Justice Center.
Are you asking the particular date that they put that in?
Well, a kind of a sequence was.
Yeah, and I can give you the sequencing, and I don't have the exact dates on it, but when we started this project, it all starts out with the engineer doing a survey of what's in the ground. When they had started that process, the service line going into the Justice Center was not quite in yet. So when they did their survey of that block of Ashland, that water service line that comes into the Justice Center wasn't there. So it wasn't on the plans when we actually got those put into place there. So, and just note that is $7,770 worth of the change order on this one. And that was to lower that because with storm sewer, you have to be at a particular elevation because they run by gravity where water does not. So water had to be lowered, I believe, just to get that storm sewer in there. There's also about $13,200 worth of change order on this one. It's modifying the storm sewer intakes around the existing water main. That is something that Bolton and Mink has agreed to pay that portion of the change order. However, from a bookkeeping standpoint, that's going to be something that gets credited back to the city on our next engineering
Sorry,
invoice.
what was that total?
That amount was $13,264.50.
Out of the 21,000
Yes.
or on top of the 21?
No, out of that amount. So we still need to pay that amount. They then credit it back to us on an engineering invoice. So the books eventually will equal out, but that was just something, and it really explained that one really quick. That was something where the existing water main elevation, they didn't have it, but they did come around and say essentially there was ways they could have found it. They did not find it at that time. So because of that, they were willing to eat those costs because that should have been something that was caught.
I mean, we know when a new building goes up, we're always gonna have utilities that come in and out.
Yes.
So it sounds like, from what I'm understanding, is maybe there was a communication breakdown between county's engineer, whoever did stormwater, and then our engineer. They weren't, I mean, because we should have known they were gonna have to put a storm drain.
Yeah. Well, no, and it was a water main that they
Water
put in.
main?
Yep,
Wasn't it?
water main that they put in. And I mean, the other thing that I think is kind of happening here is that the city, when the Justice Center went up, the county asked the city to waive all review authority we had on the Justice Center, and the city agreed to that. That was back in 2018. So there was a lot of inspections and things that were happening via the state of Iowa was doing those, and the city was not doing those. So the city wasn't able to get that information either.
But the issue is Bolton and Mink didn't bother to contact the county engineering people either to find out exactly where.
No, I don't think that's the case at all.
They don't-
Again, it's all sequencing here. I mean, you start out with a survey, and I'd have to go back and look at the dates, but I'm gonna guess the survey was probably done a year before that water line went in. I mean, they were well into designing everything and putting it in place before that water line even went in.
But they knew it was going in, is that right?
I don't know if they necessarily knew exactly where it was coming in at. I can't answer that, but I mean, yeah, at some point, maybe there could have been some communication and knowing that it was going there. But again, when they're doing it, they're not just looking for a few utility lines. I mean, they're shooting elevations. They're looking for all the services that are coming in for every single building in that area, all the electrical lines, all the fiber lines, all of that stuff. So there's multiple things that are being looked for here. It's just at this point in time, when they were in this block, that service line was not in.
Well, as I've said in the past, I don't think the city ought to be paying for their mistakes. I still think this is a bold and make a mistake completely. And I don't think we ought to be paying anything for the mistakes. I do appreciate the 13,000 we're going to credit back. But I don't think we ought to be paying for any of their mistakes. I think that was just an error that they didn't bother to talk to the engineer and get it done. So unless I've got other evidence otherwise, that's, I think.
And it's probably important to note that Bolton Mink maybe didn't pick up the fact that that water main was in the ground at that point because the survey was done much earlier. Had they discovered it at the design, it would have been incorporated into the base bid. And so it would have been something we paid for. It just wouldn't necessarily been part of change order. And a change order, yeah, obviously you can run the risk with change orders, but the overall base bid would have been higher because in the end, we would have been paying for it either way. And so it's a challenge because in this construction environment, it's extremely difficult to recognize that employees are scarce, and it's really hard to ensure that projects can go forward. And being a good partner in that makes it so that we have a good working relationship. And it's a real challenge when dealing with situations where you open up the ground and you're just not exactly sure. Now, in this particular case, absolutely, they should have known that it was going to be installed at some point in the future, but at the onset, they didn't come back and check that. But they are taking money off their bill on this other area as well. So it's kind of that partnership give and take.
I'm just not sure it's on the taxpayer's back. It's an engineering mistake. It is what it is. It's a mistake. And we've had a lot of mistakes. And, I think that maybe that's had some changeover of the engineering, changeover. And I just want to make sure we can just move forward very positively and not have more.
Right, because if that hadn't been a mistake, they would have known it was there and planned it, and we've been paid for it in that base bid. Absolutely.
Yeah, I share a little bit of the concerns. I mean, we've had $160,000 in change orders.
117.
Hell, I'm marking off the 13,000 here that Charlie said would be credited back, but and I know some of that, we found dead spots under some of those sidewalks, but it certainly is concerning a little bit with the overall amount of change orders with this project.
I'll add to that really quick, but we're at, I think, about 3.75% right now in change orders, which is actually extremely good for any project to get under that amount. Typically, you try to stay somewhere, I think, between 5 and 10%. So, I mean, I can say as far as overall bill and what we paid to date and what the change orders are, I think from staff standpoint, at least, we're very comfortable with where that number is.
I think we also have to keep in mind it's two projects between two separate entities. They were doing their due diligence in the beginning, but things change. And as the project continues to advance, you have to make changes and fix the things to make them go, so you have a county project going on and a city project going on at the same time. There's bound to be a little bit of buckle, and I think that's the understanding of that. Like you said, the partnerships are important. So I think we all need to remember that too.
I think too, as you mentioned, in this construction environment, there's always a risk they'll walk too.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have to work hard to get business right now, unfortunately for us.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Charlie. All right. The first and second. So Jackie?
Councilmember Richardson,
No.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Dougie,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
All right, we will move on to item H. So resolution approving change order number 2. It's no change in the contract amount and a payment application number 4 in the amount of $114,990.61 to Absolute Concrete for 2022 infrastructure improvement projects, Boston Avenue. Can I get a first and second?
So moved as read.
Second.
Thank you.
I just had a question what it was, what we ended up changing. I don't know if Charlie or Dean need to answer that or AP. I'm sorry, AP, go ahead.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Yes, and welcome back.
So this was a change order for the pipe material. Initially, what they saw was a concrete pipe. They're changing it to a high density polyethylene pipe, which is more of a plastic kind of pipe.
Okay.
To match what's there.
And I apologize if that was in the memo. Having difficulty getting things on the plane today.
Sure.
Thank you.
I had a quick question on everything. So in the packet, it said that 47% of the work time has expired, but only 23% of the work has been completed. Is there a stretch of the project where the work completed will catch up with the time remaining?
So this project doesn't have working days. It's more of a completion time. So yeah, we are tracking progress on the work, but it's generally the contract itself is the completion time, which is sometime in November. Having said that, we are going to have meetings with the contractor about the progress. I've been tracking, even in the last few weeks, we have been tracking. We're going to have progress meetings this week, So with that being said, like I said, the contract is not based on the working days, it's on the completion time of the project.
Do you know why they're far behind? I mean, we haven't seen rain since like last May, so I mean, it's been a dry summer for them to be able to.
Yeah, there
work.
has been some challenges with the sanitary sewer, water main, everything that's been going on. With that being said, if they don't complete the work on time, they are under a contract where if they don't complete it by November, then they are paying. I don't remember whether it's $1,000 or $750 a day for what they are paying. So it'll be a substantial income for them to lose if they don't finish it in time. So
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Do you know when phase one will open up on that?
So, so that's what we're gonna have a meeting on this during this week. So basically phase one was the east half of the block, and then phase two was going to be the west half of the block. So I think the contract, the way it was written out is when phase one was getting completed, there will be a certain time when phase two will also be closed. But the plan was to eventually open up phase one and then go towards phase two. But there was a certain amount of days where both phase one and phase two would be closed. And we're gonna have more meetings with the contractor to know when they are planning to open up phase one. So I'll report back. We will report
Thank
back.
you. Thank you. Yeah, homeowner had asked. So I
Sure,
know
sure.
You were off, so I just wanted to make sure we gave them the exact time. Well, not exact, but roundabout time. Thank you. Any other questions for AP? All right, Jackie?
Councilmember Dalby,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
All right, we will move on to council reports and receive and file the July 2022 treasurer's report. Can I get a first and second?
Moved as read.
Second.
Thank you. And Mr. Shaw, if you'd like to come to the podium.
I thought maybe I was going to sneak by one here. The report that's in Mayor and council members, the report before you is for the first month of the 22-23 fiscal year. So it's 1/12 of the year. And just a couple of things, I think we did talk about that local option sales tax transferred a lot of money out of there in the month of June. So comparing last year's balance to this year's balance, it's down 5.9 million. And that's because of, again, the transfer out. And other than that, there's not too much to really be said. The interest rates fortunately are kind of creeping up, which is a good thing. And subject to questions, that would be my report.
Any questions?
So I see we did have an increase of 169,000 in approximately in the local option sales tax. Was that just refresh my memory? And I know we've talked about this, but are they paying that monthly now? Is that how they're doing
That would be for the month of July.
Okay.
I don't, maybe it's June and you get it in July or whatever, but yeah.
We get it at the end of each month.
Thank you.
Looks like it's on course for
Yeah.
maybe 2.1 million or
Yeah,
something.
I saw that. Yeah, I just calculated it.
All right. Thanks, Doug, so much.
Thank you.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Move on. I need a first and second motion to receive and file the July 2022 EMS billing activity report.
First, I would approve. Move approval.
Second. Thanks, Gwen. All right. Any questions for Chief Chia? Highlights you want to give us?
No.
Got
away with it.
All right. We're getting so used to them now. Thanks, Chief Chia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we will move on. I need a first and second motion on the appointment of Heather Sinclair to Hometown Pride Committee for a term beginning July 1st, 2022 and ending July 1st, 2023. Thank you. Discussion. Right, Jackie?
Councilmember Hewland,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Dalby,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Okay, so we, 6D, we are going to, I believe, have that item pulled then.
I'll make a motion to table this
Okay, table.
item to a future meeting based on having the staff, direct the staff to put together a formalization of this committee and the members and bring it back to the council for review. I'll leave that first there and then I can explain after that. So I don't want to give an explanation in the motion. So,
All right,
I would second that.
okay.
and the reason I brought this up is that I've been on the council 10 and a half, almost 11 years, and we've never formally ever appointed anybody to the sustainability committee. And so it's a change. And so I'm trying to figure, I know Jackie did some research and found out that it is actually a recognized committee of the council, I guess. So I just want to get some formalization as to who's on it, because we already have members that have not been approved by the council. And I guess I would, through transparency and stuff, I guess I would just like to see us, how do we review that going forward, and with who's on that committee now, what kind of requirements we have, and then really what is the committee, what is their job, or what is their
Parameters by which.
the parameters of that committee, I guess. So before we start officially approving.
Well, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
I know we've discussed that, Ben and I, several of our boards and commissions. So, okay, do we need to vote on that then to
Yes.
table it?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so I have a first and second. So Jackie?
Councilmember Dalby,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Hewland,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
All right. So we will move on into the mayor's report, community update. It has been a busy August already. We have a food festival. We have Warren County Economics Development Breakfast. That was great. A lot of council could make it that morning. It was out at the balloon field. Unfortunately, balloons weren't flying that morning. We had the pro disc golf tournament coming up this weekend at Pickard. They are looking for volunteers still tomorrow. If you are available between 8 and 4:30, you just show up to Pickard. And that's really all they have. School is starting for traditional school coming up next week, and Mayor's Youth Council is going to get off the ground, and we're going to have some great things happening this year. So that's all I have.
Hey, is Doug still in here? Do you know what kind of volunteers they need this part of this week? Because I talked to Ty Tanette.
Ty just said they needed help just cleaning up the park. I think
Ah.
they were looking for like branch cleanup and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
manual labor.
Got it.
All right. Okay, we will move on, and we have a proclamation. It's a proclamation in Water and Wastewater Workers of Iowa Week. Go ahead and read that. Do we have anyone here from that department?
We have Rick on.
Oh, hey,
Zoom.
Rick. Thanks, Rick, for being with us. Rick, actually, I failed to mention to Rick, and HR Green gave us a great tour of the wastewater treatment plant, the new one, last week. And it was hot, but we learned a lot from it. Ben got to do it twice last week, so he was lucky. So proclamation for Water and Wastewater Workers of Iowa Week. Whereas water is one of the most valuable economic and environmental recreational resources, and whereas a clean and abundant supply of safe drinking water helps sustain life, attract developments, and provide for health and welfare and safety for our community in many ways. And whereas wastewater treatment facilities contribute to healthy communities, protect public health through safe transport and sanitation, and improve water quality for streams, rivers, and lakes. And whereas water and wastewater treatment workers focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are vital importance to sustainable, reliant, and safe and enjoyable communities. And whereas Indianola is blessed to have such dedicated professionals at the city and IMU working around the clock to protect our community, the environment, and our natural resources. And whereas Kim Reynolds, governor of the state of Iowa, recently proclaimed August 21st through 27th, 2022 as Water and Wastewater Workers of Iowa Week. Now, therefore, I, Stephanie Erickson, Mayor of Indianola, join Governor Reynolds in proclaiming the week of August 21st through 27th, 2022 as Water and Wastewater Workers of Iowa Week, and encourage our citizens to join me in recognizing the great work of our dedicated professionals here in Indianola. Proclaim this the 15th day of August, 2022. We will move on to item 8A, and Andy will present the fiscal year 2022 year-end review.
Mayor, members of the council, I just wanted to take a few moments of your time to go over a review of our FY22. Currently, we're doing audit field work, so we have Robert and his assistant up in the South Conference Room all this week doing field work right now, finishing in FY22. But I want to take a few moments to maybe go over a review of some of the main revenue sources that we had coming in to into the city, and some of the opportunities and concerns that we have moving forward with planning for FY24, and then just review the budget calendar and where we're at in our progress. So the first one that I want to review with you was the EMS fees. In FY21, we fell short of our budget target for the EMS fees, regular EMS fees. We had budgeted 700,000, but we fell short of that. We did the same thing in FY22, but the reason for that is that we had budgeted 750,000, and we also added 200,000 for GEMT. If you recall, GEMT is the new program where the federal government was going to reimburse the city for Medicaid transports. And since it's just a startup year, we had a little bit of time delay where we were rolling up that program with our third-party biller. So we only collected about a little over 68,000 for GEMT. But you can see there on the graph that we budgeted 750,000 for our regular service fees, and we collected over 802,000. So, you know, that department was really busy, and kudos to them because they were short staffed and had a lot of work to be done that year during this past year. And then the next revenue stream I want to recap is Mid-America Energy franchise fees. As you know, Mid-America supplies natural gas for all the properties in the city of Indianola, and then a small area where IMU does not service electric. In 2020, the council decided to increase the franchise fee to 5%, since we were already collecting 5% pilot payment from IMU for electric. And we anticipated that we would be collecting about 150,000 more in franchise fees, and we did just that. And this has in past years been earmarked for street improvements, and we make a transfer into Fund 321 for those street improvements every 2 years. It'll be this will be FY23 will be one of those years. And moving forward, since we had that increase in revenue, we've increased that from about 250,000 to 500,000 each year. Road use tax fund revenue. We did have an increase in FY21. A lot of this was due to an increase extra payment that was made from the state, from some federal funds that they received, and they doled out to the counties and cities. And it was about 142,000 the city received extra. But midway through that year, we also had the census, the 2020 census certified. And we knew we were going to have an increase in that number. So we had some of that increase, but this was FY22 was the full year of realizing that increase. And so we did budget 2 million in road use tax revenue, and we came in about 2.1. We anticipate that each year we'll see an increase, a small increase of that, but we won't see another major increase of that until 2030, when the next census, since it is distributed on a per capita basis. The third revenue stream that I wanted to cover was the sanitary sewer fees. We had a large increase in FY21, but that was due to the conversion that INU was undergoing for elation. And our June 2020, the end of the FY20 fiscal year, those payments were delayed being transferred to the city. So you notice that it was over 4 million in FY21, and then at just under 4 million in FY22. So we did budget at 3.9 million, but our pro forma with DA Davidson shows that it should be over 4 million or 4.1 million. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this, because we'll have some additional costs when we start up the new plant. And then we also want to make sure that we meet our obligations underneath our revenue bond notes. So that's a discussion that we're going to probably have here coming up with DA Davidson once we have a clear understanding of our audit numbers. And we'll be presenting that later on to the city council. Our property tax revenue for our operational, our employee benefits, and for our debt service all came in slightly above what we had certified, just on target for FY22. But then the last thing I want to cover, kind of a preview, kind of what we're looking at coming up for FY24 and our planning for FY24, is our building permit, since that's tied a lot to our property valuation. We did see quite a bit of growth in the city, both residential, commercial, and industrial, but as being seen throughout the metro, due to inflation and other supply chain issues, there's been quite a bit of slowdown, not only in Indianola, but in the metro area as well. We do still see the building permits happening, but we have seen a little bit of a slowdown in that area. But you can see that our valuation's going up quite a bit over the past couple of years.
That's the value of the permit, you mean, as per permit? Like
Yeah, the valuations I added.
Do you have any idea, and you probably don't, but I thought I'd ask this question, any idea on the appreciation of current property values of existing homes or businesses in the community? Have you any idea at all where we might be on that? I know prices have increased by 9.1% or something like that. I'm just kind of curious if that's kind of the same ballpark we're going to be in this next year.
I think so. I'm not exactly sure. We'll know more once we get the valuation from the county.
Yeah, sure.
And once we get the rollback in November.
Yeah, okay.
For our opportunities and concerns, what we're looking at, we're making some improvements in our industrial park, so we want to make sure that's shovel ready for any development that's going to happen in industrial park. That will open up opportunities for the city to receive grants from the state for new development. And then we have seen some signs that inflation has cooled down a little bit, with some fuel costs have gone down, but we are also still experiencing supply chain issues, because we're still having some equipment and other things being delayed in receiving those. And then ag prices seem to be still high for cost for crops. That allows us to allow ag prices and ag land values to still be high. So that's important for us, because it's tied to the residential rollback. So if ag land prices remain high, then residential values will remain high as well. So that's an opportunity to take into account. And then our concerns, we have heard that there is legislation at the State House that's being considered for property tax reform. We're not exactly sure what exactly they're going to be looking at. Again, inflation and supply pipeline issues, and then a slowing housing market as well due to inflation and other costs. So high interest rates, you see it's in both columns, both the opportunity and the concern. We receive additional revenue for our investments on higher interest rates. But if the council decides to move forward with some future borrowing, that's also going to add some additional costs to us. Okay. The last thing I'd like to review with the council is the budget calendar. As you can see that we're still in phase one as far as some of the planning and things like that. Right now we're doing FY22 audit field work and looking at some long range revenue forecast. And we'll be starting this next column here very shortly. I'll be working with department heads on their capital improvement plans. Any questions? Discussion.
You back up 2 slides, Andy, I did have a question there I wanted to ask you. I guess I want to make a point here. I think it's really important that we keep an eye on that property tax reform legislation. I think it's really important that we think about having our legislators in here sometime after the election in November so we can talk about that and find out what their thoughts are on that and where they think it's going to go. When I was in the legislature, that was common practice. And so I'd like to see if we can maybe think about bringing that back. Thank you.
Yep.
I just, one comment doesn't pertain to this, but saw that you received the city staff and you received the budget performance award again this year. Appreciate that, 6 years in a row. So that's an awesome thing. And I know it's a lot of fine tooth combing of our budget and how our processes are. So it's appreciate that we're holding ourselves to a high standard. So thank you.
Thank you.
Should make residents feel comfortable.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for the update.
Andy, could you, one more thing on the EMS, could you just go over what the write-off is on that? Because that's something that all communities are experiencing, correct?
What's
In
that?
Iowa, the write-off for we don't take in as much as we should because of Medicare, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Right, and that's something that I know of several communities that, I've been involved with or know of, and I just wondered what the dollar amount is.
Okay, we can take a look at that and see exactly what that is. We'll get back to you on that.
Move on to new business. Resolution approving a major site plan application for retail sales of pharmacy drugstore at 2105 North 3rd Lane. Need a first and second motion.
So it's read.
Second.
Thank you. Charlie.
Hi, good evening. This site that we're looking at right here, if you go north of town up into Summercrest Hills, so you've got North Jefferson Way coming up here, Trail, Ridge Avenue, Hardee's is here, Casey's is here, and the Y building's here. So the property that we're looking at locating this use on there is that property that's outlined in red. This probably isn't going to show up too well, but I took the site plan and tried to kind of transpose it onto what that property would look like, just to give you a kind of a thought of scale on that, so everybody's aware of that. You recall, I believe at actually it was 2 meetings ago, you approved a plat of survey of this property, essentially splitting off this bottom portion right here, which will allow the property owner to sell that for another use in the future. On this one, just wanted to provide you with what the building is going to look like. So the east elevation, this north elevation right here is going to be the side that's facing Trail Ridge, and then the east is going to be the front door, which is facing North 3rd. And if I go back here, so the front door is going to be along this road here, with that north elevation being right there, just to provide you some concept on that. So Planning and Zoning Commission went back and forth on this one a few times. Our code says on the front elevation that you have to have at least 20% clear glass on there. Medicap was asking for a little bit less. They are having 15% on there. And really the main reason they are asking for less is because they have controlled substances inside. The security of the building was at risk with more glass. So they did ask for the less glass on there. So eventually the Planning and Zoning Commission did agree to that and is moving a recommendation of approval forward to the council. So with that, if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Is that drive-through site, is that on the west side?
The drive-through, let me just go back to here. Drive-through will actually be down here on this side.
On the
So
south side?
you can see, you come into the site right here is the driveway, and then the drive-through would come around there and through that area.
Any questions? Jackie?
Councilmember Dolby,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Okay, so I need a first and second motion to approve a resolution approving a plat of survey for Kevin Holterman located adjacent to 2110 Country Club Boulevard.
Second.
Thank you.
And I will go really quick on this one with the consent agenda approval. This evening, you approved the third consideration of rezoning of this property. So the next step is to approve the plat of survey, splitting that portion off, which is what is in front of you on this item. So any questions, be happy to answer them.
No question? All right, Jackie?
Councilmember Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Dolby,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Richardson.
We'll move on to a first consideration of an ordinance amending chapter 71.04 of Code of Ordinance of the City of Indianola. Thank you.
Second.
Who would like to speak on this?
I
Is
can
this you,
speak on it
Ben?
really quickly. Yes. Mayor and Council, we were approached by the Sheriff's Office because they have a scheduling conflict where they have their nighttime dispatchers and jail personnel that need to be at work at the same time that their morning crews and their court personnel show up. And there's a little bit of a conflict when it comes to parking. Our current ordinance does not allow for overnight parking on the square. And they've asked for a special provision to allow that to happen. And this would allow our chief of police or designee the ability to issue a permit. And that would be done in harmony with our streets department to ensure that the streets are clear when they need to take care of snow or other maintenance on the square. They can contact dispatch and Sheriff's Office will work with us ensuring that their vehicles are moved so that we can maintain everything properly. So this is before you for your consideration.
What's the parking supposed to be for the county employees around the square?
That is a challenge. There is some parking that's available. Some of the planned parking is now being occupied by the court itself, and so it's not being provided to the Sheriff's Office, and so much of the parking is being done by personnel parking at the square, which is added a challenge considering the fact that it's still under construction. We have been in talks with the county about trying to work with having their personnel not impacting the businesses as much. That has not yet been formalized.
And we're talking like 3 or 4 cars, correct? For the
For
overnight.
this one,
jailers?
it's not an impact at all because these 3 or 4 are leaving by 8 a.m. before business is open. But in general, I think there is a continued problem with not only the court personnel, the jail, and all the employees, but the patrons that are coming in and utilizing the court and how that is impacting the square and the turnover of parking. That's something that the Downtown Commission is going to be looking at in the months ahead, but they wanted to see the construction completed down the square before they entertained that and made a recommendation to the council.
So the shift is like from midnight to 8 or something like that then?
Well, this right here allows the ones that are on consideration this evening is an overnight shift, and those cars would be leaving by 8 a.m. when their shift ends, 8 or 8:30.
They're over, so the parking lot in there, they're overlapping with that shift. And so there's nowhere for them to park. So that,
If they parked in their parking spaces, then the morning crews could not come in and park in those spaces.
You said there's what, 3 employees?
3 or 4.
I think they indicated they thought 4 positions. So different employees on different nights, but 4 cars that would be overnight on the square.
But not all at one time, correct?
No, there would be 4 all at one time, but they may have 6 or 7 different personnel that are switching out, but no more than 4 is what I meant. It's my understanding.
Any other questions? Jackie?
Councilmember Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Melby,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to the first consideration of an ordinance amending chapter 71.02 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Indianola. First and second.
So moved.
Second.
All right,
I'll start and maybe we can have AP
Okay,
and Brian chime in as well. So there's been a request to add a stop sign to the intersection of 9th and Iowa. It's, on the east side of Iowa Street, there is no stop signs. And this one does have close proximity to the Somerset Trail, as well as it is a school crossing in that area. There is parking along 9th. There was enough items that the council, it warranted the council having an opportunity to take a look at this intersection and decide what you would want to do with it. From a strict federal sense, and does it meet standards? No, it does not warrant a stop sign at this time. And I will, I guess, turn maybe the time over to AP and Brian to answer any questions that you may have, whether you want to have data on the intersection itself. But long story short, this is really a question, since stop signs in the city of Indianola are codified by ordinance. This is new and unique to me. So,
we do have a property owner here, and I do have an email from another property owner that are on the corners of that intersection. So I guess do you want to go first, Brian?
Sure.
All right.
Mayor, council members, my name is Brian Indrasal. I live at the corner of Iowa 9th at 1000 North 9th Street. My family, we moved there in October 2007. Is there any way that we could actually get the map of that area up here so we could speak a little bit so everyone gets an understanding? I know somebody had the computers pull up Google Maps or something. It would just be helpful if you could do that or not.
unfortunately, the computer is right there and it's on presentation
Okay,
mode.
not a problem. So when we first moved there in 2007, 9th Street did not continue on from where it went from Iowa all the way to Hillcrest. And those, so in the time that we've moved here and we've lived here, there's been quite a bit of construction on 9th, where now 9th goes all the way from Hillcrest, which is an east-west street coming off from 65, 69, and it's become a major thoroughfare for folks that live in the neighborhood as well, though, too. We've had the new construction to the east of all the housing on 15th, and then we've had 2 Kading properties already put at the edge of 9th, so that the traffic flow throughout 9th Street is horrendous. And for those of you that have been over there too, it's very tough, especially for folks that live, and I live on the corner, but my wife works at the middle school, and just trying to get out. And I would encourage anyone that wants to see next week when school starts, just the chaos that occurs when buses are trying to get through there as well, though, too. It's very chaotic, but especially for the homeowners, and I always back in regardless, but even backing in, it's very problematic because people come through there so fast. The chief and the PD do a phenomenal job of trying to keep the speeders down, but I can tell you, living there on the corner, there's accidents monthly there. And I'm sure there's probably going to be some kind of data, whether they're reported or not, but I can see numerous close calls. It makes it very difficult. We have a crossing guard there, but there are numerous times when I've talked to her as well, where she's nearly been hit with kids as well, though, too. The other issue we've also got now, and it's good having new business come into town, but now that we've got the Phillips flooring that moved into just between the Kading property and Hillcrest, as well as the new retirement home, I've already seen an increase in the traffic flow from the Phillips folks with just their personal cars, as far as their small sedans, as well as their work vehicles already coming up and down 9th Street. So the flow has just increased quite a bit. And now we're going to have their showroom open, though, so people are going to start utilizing that way as well, though, too. And it's causing quite a bit of issues there as well, though, too. The speeding isn't a huge issue as well, though, too. And so I would just, from my standpoint, having a 4-way stop there, what I think would help from the safety standpoint. I broached this issue when there were numerous accidents in the past to the council under previous administrations, and they said it was because it was a traffic flow issue. And I find it hard, because I understand it's a city ordinance as well, as far as putting this on here, but is the traffic flow issue of slowing people down just a little bit worth the cost of a child's life? Because again, at a certain point, someone's going to get hurt or killed at that. I've nearly been hit at the complex there where people are trying to rush across. I've had my cars hit there on the side of the road. It's very problematic. And if there was some way, whether or not you utilized 14th Street, which is just to the east there, if I'm correct, which is very industrial, if there was some way that we could work in the city, working with the school system to try to have the bus traffic and more traffic. And also, I also saw recently coming back on Hillcrest now, so between the YMCA, right across from Grit, there's, I think it's Summerland Development. Summercrest, thank you. And so now we're looking at more new homes in there as well, though, too. And all those folks are probably going to be new homeowners, and they're going to have more kids. And so we have to find some way as we grow Iowa or as in Indianola, how we're going to keep people off 9th Street, because again, it was never intended to be a thoroughfare for everybody. And now the other option would be is, and again, this might sound a little bit different, but originally 9th Street didn't go all the way. So if you look at, I believe it's 1405, that's where I want to see the map, on 9th Street. It's the last house currently right now before you get to the Kading properties as well. There was talking on the Kading stuff about putting a park there or something else. And of course, they want to make a profit. And this is not about Kading, but it is in a sense, regardless. If you were to make that a potential cul-de-sac, I know this is kind of spitball and kind of an idea, but forcing people that are south of that to not come all the way through there. Plus, you've also got all the increased traffic there as well, too. But at a certain point, we're going to have so many cars through there. It's not even, you're going to have to force the homeowners by some edict, which I'm not going to like, is force one, no one have cars parked on that street, which is the wrong answer. Because again, when we bought the property, we want that, there are a lot of families there that have growth, and we just can't put all the cars there. Because on a separate side note, I know I'm trying to get along here as well, too. We've got folks in there that are very rigorous, and I can have the chief talk about people that park anywhere across the sidewalk. I understand that, but again, I've had numerous knocks on my door by the police. They've been awesome about this, where again, I can't get all my cars, so I've got to park them in the street. So again, something has to give. So either we have to find a way to reduce the traffic flow to make it safe for the folks that are there as well, too. And whether it's a stop sign, a temporary four-way stop, because I know they've actually got the stop signs where you can put them up temporarily, but we need something to safeguard, the citizens that are there that are walking, especially the kids going back and forth, or even in a flashing yellow just to get people to slow down. Thank you.
Thank you. I have an email I'll read real quick. It's really short. It is from property owner, also on North 9th in Iowa, across the street from Brian. I don't have her exact address. I'm probably going to butcher her last name, so I apologize, Christina. My name is Christina Labiche, and I have lived at the corner of North 9th in Iowa since 2005. Through the years, the area has evolved from Lincoln Ridge Estates to a popular thoroughfare of people going from Hillcrest to the high school, middle school, and Emerson. This has quadrupled the amount of traffic and has resulted in unsafe crossing situations for the children and adults who are walking, even with the crossing guard. The crossing guard has had to deal with disgruntled drivers who can't show patience while the children are trying to cross. We have personally witnessed several accidents at the corner, two that happened to occur during the same week just this past summer. I know a four-way stop would help improve the overall safety of the corner due to people not paying attention and contribute to slowing down the traffic. Thank you for hearing my input on this matter. All right, do you have anything? Or Brian? Either one?
Mayor and Council, this is the Public Works Director. This is a very sensitive topic where the stop signs are generally requested by property owners, whereas staff, we look at numbers, we look at warrants, what's needed there. We have standards created by Federal Highway Administration, which is called the MEPCD Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is based on traffic volumes, accidents, geometry of the intersections. So on this case, we have looked at the traffic volumes, accident history, everything that was mentioned. We have looked at all the hard numbers. Unfortunately, they do not meet the warrants. none of the numbers, they were, for instance, the accident history. We looked at the reported accident history for the last 6.5 years. There has been 5 accidents in the last 6.5 years, of which 4 are correctable by the conversion to a 4-way stop. But these are numbers that we are looking at. I looked at the Iowa DOT accident reports that comes to our office. Having said that, we have generally accepted what the council has made decision on previously. For instance, Iowa and Howard and Iowa and Buxton did not meet the warrants, but the council decided based on community needs. So we will certainly accept what the council makes a decision on that, and we can monitor after if they are converted to a 4-way stop. So
Hey, how many cars would it take a day to warrant a stop sign there? I mean, if you don't have that number, that's fine. I don't want to put you on the spot. Just
generally the number of traffic volumes for both the main street and the side streets should match, whether it's, let's say for instance, on Iowa Avenue, the last traffic counts we had was 7,000 vehicles per day on Iowa Avenue, whereas on 9th Street, it's 2,000 vehicles per day. So there's a mismatch on that, so generally if the numbers are equal, let's say it had 3,000 cars on 9th, and it also, this main street also had 3,000 cars, then you kind of.
when was that study last done?
So I just looked up the numbers recently before coming to this presentation. We looked up, the traffic volumes are old. When I say old, it's 4 years old, but the numbers are, even if it quadruples, I don't believe it's near close to 7,000 vehicles per day.
Yeah, I get that. I just know, and I live over somewhat in that area, and I'm that way frequently in the mornings on my bike and use the bike trail, 9th Street and on Iowa and all those kinds of things. And I know the traffic at that, I've had witnessed the traffic stopped all the way back up to the bike trail trying to get through that intersection in the morning.
Every day.
And well, I just
I
say
drive
in the
it
morning.
every
yeah.
day.
But I also noticed the traffic on Iowa, there's 2 things there. You have a little bit of a rise there where the bike trail goes over the overnight Iowa. And there's a little bit of a hill. And sometimes if you're far enough back, you can't see what's down below there. I've also witnessed cars going fairly fast on Iowa and getting over that hill. And all of a sudden you got the lady out there with the kids and they're slamming on the brakes. Coming from the other direction off of 15th and up to that area, I saw one car turn in. Folks can park there on that east side of the road, if I'm not mistaken. Got hung up there, and of course, there were other cars coming up 15 trying, and it was just a mess. And so I'm in favor of stop sign there. And I'm not against anything with what your guys are doing. I just think it's really important that we take a look at that.
Sure.
Safety.
I think we have a lot of, I drive it every day to take my daughter to school, to and from school, and it is backed up.
During school generally.
Yeah, say, how long does that last? 5 minutes?
It's
10 minutes?
it's
Okay, how long does it
We
take to
gotta
drop
leave-
off kids?
No, we gotta leave
It's
the
all
house
day
before 7:35, or
It does take a long
you're
time.
stuck in that traffic. And the problem is you have so much traffic on Iowa coming, and so then you're stuck on 9th and you're backed up all the way to the bike trail, that there's been times where I've just gone up and gone over to 15th because it's a little bit easier to get around. And in fact, that's what I made my 16-year-old son do to go to the high school, because I didn't want him crossing the intersection. I've seen kids almost taken out on their bikes. Vicky, she's concerned, she's a crossing guard. So she's almost been hit. I've seen her almost hit. Again, I see it every day, and I think it is a safety issue for a child. And Vicky, and we employ her. I guess the city employs the crossing guard, so we definitely make sure Vicky stays safe.
Yeah, I think one of the differences too is that there are, if you go east of the highway in Iowa, there's a number of stop signs. What are there, 5 or 6 between East Street and the highway? I think there's 4, at least 4.
On where?
From Highway 65, 69 east to East Street.
Howard,
On
Buxton, and
Iowa,
Three.
there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4.
3.
3? Okay, at least there's 3 stop signs there, slows traffic. From Iowa on, all the way to 15th and all the way out to the end, there's not 1 stop sign. So you don't slow traffic at all. During times when Herschel is letting off of work at 3:30, I think it is, and the kids are out of school at 3:30 or 3 o'clock, it gets to be a little mess.
The linemen get done around that time.
It is a real mess, and I'm concerned about the safety issue there. I've seen it, I've been there, I've watched it. And then at Emerson, the parents are parking on 9th Street, almost all the way up to Gerard, which is only leaves you a block or so there. So you got traffic backed up there and coming up. It is a real mess. I agree.
I did a poll in my neighborhood group, and there was, of the 29 people, I believe it was 29 people who responded, 27 were in favor and 2 were not. Okay, I apologize, that was wrong. I had 35 people who voted, and looks like, sorry, 2 were not in favor and 33 were in favor. And so this is only Lincoln Ridge neighbors that live there.
Sorry, what were those numbers?
So 33 yes, wanted a 4-way stop, and then 2 no. So 89% to 11%.
I too live over there, and again, I spend a lot of time on the trail, drive it multiple times a day. I get it. You have those short time windows where there is a lot of cars. My kids went to Emerson. I remember going and picking up and seeing the people that were parked both sides of the street, blocking it so they could go pick up their kids and walk them out to their cars. To me, that's a different issue than just adding a 4-way stop sign to it. What is Iowa? Is Iowa a collector?
Yes.
It's a collector. And what is the idea of a collector street?
So collectors where you have all kinds of traffic, higher traffic volumes, you have truck traffic, generally going to the industrial park over there. So that's an idea where you get more traffic volume. Whereas the 9th is currently classified as a residential street.
So if we had a 4-way stop, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be backing up traffic down Iowa Street at a higher level than we are on 9th Street for the most part during the day, except for that hour window, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening, when the kids are getting out of school for 9 months out of the year.
I think that the first proposal was a temporary stop sign, but that's not so much standard anymore.
Right.
What our conversation was last week, because that was, can we get a temporary stop sign in those school hours? And then we were told that's not, we're trying to not do that.
You don't want to confuse the public with
Yes.
temporary coming
Yes.
out.
And I would tell you on the bike, as far as the bike trail crossing, I have more of a problem with people unsure whether they're supposed to stop for somebody on the trail and the ones that go through. And I see that more of a problem than I do with just the amount of traffic. And again, I spent a lot of time, and I've never seen an almost accident or a kid almost get hit. We wait, you cross. I see most of the time people stopping, and then you got somebody coming the other direction that's not stopping. And I think that creates more of a concern. And that's not only there, but also on 9th Street too. Again, I was not in favor of the stop signs on Iowa Street the other direction as well. And obviously my colleagues voted at that time to go ahead and add those. But I think there's a reason why you have standards, and I don't see the need. I mean, it's not like you're always going to have your anecdotal stuff. I could tell you that there's 5 cars a day that young guys come screaming down my street, which goes nowhere, to be honest with you. There's really no reason for them to be there other than they're cutting through. So, I mean, you have those anecdotal things, but I think to me, this doesn't warrant, because now what will end up happening is we're going to start having 4-way stop signs everywhere in our community. And it's already starting to, I've seen it more as time's gone on when I've been on council, and some of us are old and have been around for a while, and you start to see more and more of it. And I guess I just want to be very cautious about doing that.
That would be my only concern, because I know there have been some other proposals in recent years that have been denied. And so then I think you have to, whether this is something we should do or not, I think we have to just be consistent in our process, would be my concern. So we either go by the codes and the regulations and the standards that we have, or we let neighborhoods, provide more input. And I'm not saying one should be and one should not, but I think that's the main issue, is to be consistent and
When
me,
you
what I'm
got the
hearing- I'm
neighbors,
hearing
you've got
more
two
of a-
property owners that adjoin at that
Right, but
corner
I'm
that are
hearing more of
both.
a concern with the number of traffic.
other
Yeah.
neighborhoods have been denied. One.
Well, I mean, I guess my thing is if we don't pass this, I want to ensure that every single day there is a crossing guard there. That is a city paid position, and that does not happen every single day. And I can give you a calendar over the last year, the days it didn't happen, because I keep track of it, because it is a safety issue. And that is because our cops, they might have emergencies. So if Vicky can't be there, the cop has to fill in. And I'm not sure that's the best use of tax dollars either, a cop playing crossing guard. But I want to ensure that one is there, because it is, if you are there every single day and you see it and you talk to Vicky, who is a city employee and has a voice here, and the property owners, we have a concern. One child's too much, 5 accidents is too much. I can tell you, I've seen 5 accidents since I've lived here. So, and that's 4 years. But I would say in 4 years since the last study was done, a lot has changed out there. We've added the Lyman School. We've added a lot of residential on that side. I guess, you know, that's my concern. I have to deal with it on a daily basis, and school's gonna start next week, and I'm concerned the child's gonna get hurt. But
I think that because of all that growth is the reason we shouldn't put a sign there. That is in the morning and the evening, that is a road that takes a lot of traffic off of Jefferson Way. And there may be a little congestion in the morning, but school and work hours don't normally cross each other. And, you know, I don't know, how school in session, what, 150 days or so. I wouldn't want to tie up East Iowa for all year long, just for 180 days. 60 days.
From what I'm hearing, and I know this has been an ongoing concern that I've heard from residents over there for a long time, is just actually the amount of traffic on 9th Street. And I don't know how you deal with that. I mean, I go down 14th Street. I don't go over to 9th and cut across. You know, I guess I'm not understanding why students, you know, maybe the school needs to promote that more, go down 15th Street to get to the high school. There really isn't any reason. I mean, it would also help the congestion on 9th when kids are dropped off and picked up at Anderson, if you would get the high school kids out of there as well. And again, that was a long time ago, but I remember watching high school kids go up into Coach Starr's driveway, up in his yard to go around cars blocking the street.
Well, that's the reason we put that in 97 or whenever that apron was put there at Emerson down over the hill on
Right.
9th Street. That was the reason that was put there, because people parked on one side of the street. You couldn't get buses
Right.
through there, you couldn't get cars through.
Right, well, now they just fill that up as well as the
Yeah,
street,
and
so.
you know, and in fact, I gotta be honest with you, during school hours, you know, there's been some issues with buses turning from 9th onto Euclid, come back into the Emerson parking lot there, and all of those families park on the north side of 9th Street. That's just another issue that we're gonna have to deal with down the road here, because there is a safety issue there. But I just think that, you know, we have nothing on Iowa to slow the traffic, in my opinion, other than, you know, Captain Sharon and his team putting radar out there. There's that light there, the bike trail tells you how fast you're going, but I know people don't always pay attention to that either. So, and I'm with John too on the bike trails. It'd be nice to be able to put some kind of light there when somebody shows up, they flash and people stop, but that's another story. The thing is, I think that to me, when you start dealing with child safety, I don't care how many cars there are. And I taught school for 23 years, and I know all of us believe that, but I really think here that in this particular case, I would be strongly in favor of putting a stop sign. Forward stop. So.
I'm curious, Kathy, do you have any additional information you could share?
So you want me to muddy the waters?
Yeah, muddy the waters.
Kind
Go
of,
ahead.
yeah. I want all the info.
End results, thank you. I listened to you. So in the past 8-9 years, we have had complaints about that intersection. Now, the complaints have not been about a stop sign. They've been about parking just north of Iowa.
That's why you think don't
on
start
9th.
stray.
I'm getting to that. And we have done many informal studies, sending officers out there during those times of days, in the morning, in the evening. And it has always been deemed more of an inconvenience than a safety issue. People have to wait. I find it hard to put no parking regulations there or bring that to you guys. Because when someone buys a $250,000, $300,000 house, they should be allowed to park in front of their house. So we've always looked at it, it's been more of an inconvenience. So AP has the numbers. It's been what, 5 accidents last 6 years? And unfortunately, we don't count, but we have no way to measure close calls. We just don't. So the police department will do what you guys say. If you want to put up a 4-way stop sign, we will enforce it like all the others.
How often do you run the speed spy down Iowa Street?
As often as needed. I mean, we move it around the speed spy. Okay.
Just to be able to get.
We could do a count
Speed
and-
wise, how much,
We put it out tomorrow.
I mean, I'm just curious, because, and again, this is always anecdotal and you hear this, I know we did this a few years ago on 9th Street. There were some complaints that people were, it's 70 mile an hour down there, and we found out that was not the case at all. And I think that's generally what we find out. And because on my experiences, do you have speeders on Iowa? Yeah, you do. But you also have, most of the people are driving 25.
It's generally, we can put it out there tomorrow if that's what you guys are, but generally it's at the speed limit as the average or just below.
I think my concern is just not maybe focusing on one area and not another, because again, in the past 2 years, I've had at least 3 different constituents approach me about parking on South Hour, and then the speed up drivers coming through on West 14. So, and the
We've
answer
had
is-
those conversations.
Right,
haven't
and
we?
the answer has been no, which again, I'm not saying yes or no, right or wrong. I'm saying we have to be consistent. So either we have to follow the procedures we have in place and take staff recommendation or take resident, opinion.
And we could
have to do
definitely look-
one or the other and not.
I think there's a
sometimes
middle
this
ground
and
there.
sometimes
I
that.
think
That's fine, but we have to develop. that
You're
middle
asking
ground
for
that-
some sort of a process to,
Yeah,
If you want us to
Filter
look
that.
deeper into this, I'm sorry, Heather.
yeah.
oh, you're fine.
We can put the speed
Thank
spy
you.
out both on 9th and on Iowa and get more recent counts. AP, are you good with this? We get more up-to-date data and then bring it to you guys for a more informed decision.
I would be more comfortable with
I like
that. I think it'd be easier to do
That's
that.
okay. Yeah, we can
I
do
mean,
that.
to bring it in and have it be an approval or not approval without that kind of information.
I think
to
it will
me-
bring more in our neighborhood, so I think that that's important, because I think that we need to hear from more people, and I'm not saying, I think residents, we are here to make rules for the community as a whole. We
Right, and
don't
I don't-
dictate for
I
people,
don't
so we have
disagree.
to
I
adapt
don't
to what
disagree.
happens.
But neighborhoods in the past have been denied.
So we're moving, we've got a new city manager, we've
Right.
got new positions,
Right.
so we're
So then
we're
we just have
setting
to
new
be consistent
policies.
and then review
Yes.
the others as well.
Right, we gotta get emotion out of it because everybody's wants safety.
Right.
But what does that mean? And there's things you have to
Well, I
weigh
hope
in.
everybody is watching that intersection next weekend. So we'll go ahead and, so what,
May I-
do we need to vote? I think we need to move on.
Well,
I
have a
apologize.
question
I have
for-
a family emergency I need to get to, so if we can move on. If we're not gonna vote on this and it's not gonna go anywhere.
Well, I was gonna ask Captain here. I know we have, they're non-enforcing traffic cameras at certain intersections in the community, is that correct?
No,
We don't have cameras at all. I mean, they're not traffic, we just don't have anything we watch at all.
what we have is a speed spy with John reference, and that is non-enforceable. It's for speeds of vehicles and counts of vehicles. We have the mobile
Let's
one that
not
you
put it out
see.
there until next week on when school starts, or we could do this week and we could do
Well,
next week.
I guess all I was asking is, I guess I was thinking that we had some, that I guess I'm wrong. Cameras just monitored intersections, but there's non-enforcing. They don't enforce anything. They just watch, and if you have an accident, they go back and say, no. Okay. I just thought maybe we could put some cameras there for however long and see what we find and go from there and then get as part of our data that we're gonna collect and figure out what we're doing. Whatever works. Well, I think you have a motion on the table, do you not? I can withdraw the motion and we can do it another time, but I think the second has to be withdrawn. Yes.
No, we would table.
I don't know
I
for the
think we
second
should
one.
table this though, right?
Yeah,
Doug?
Well, you could either table it or you can withdraw the motion and bring it back another time, or we can table it. We just have to have a motion to come off the table when that time comes.
or if you, if you want to, you do have to withdraw it first. If you want to have it come back to a specific time period, then you got to move to.
I'd like to bring it back at the next meeting.
If that's
we
what
do that.
council wants, then you say, we'll continue it to a date certain.
I mean, yeah, because that would give us enough time to be able to look at it, and that would be after school starts, we can.
Yeah.
So you want to withdraw your motion?
It was Councilmember Dolby.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's got to withdraw it. I think I maybe second it.
Yes, you did.
I'll withdraw my second.
No,
Your
your
motion.
motion.
Your
I'll
motion
withdraw
is
my
second.
Oh,
Sorry.
it was like an hour ago we did that.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody want to make a motion to continue it to a date certain.
September 5th, we can. 6th.
I'll make a motion that we continue this item on the agenda to September 6th meeting.
Second.
Okay, we'll move on to city manager.
You got to vote on it.
Jackie.
Councilmember Dolby.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Hewlin.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Ben, it's all yours.
Just a few quick things. I already mentioned the various events that we've had in the last few weeks. What a great community we have. And I just want to thank all those involved, especially Stacy with the National Balloon Classic and Doug with all the work that him and his crew are doing. Just fantastic. I mean, just our staff in general. They're firing on all engines and doing an exceptional job. I also wanted to extend appreciation to the mayor. We are working on trying to relocate offices and trying to figure out space. And so I will be coming to the council to talk about allocating budget so that we can do some office modifications and changes fairly soon. But the mayor was gracious enough to open up her office so that staff could utilize that. So I do appreciate her. I didn't even get the question out of my mouth and she already offered it up and offered to paint it. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Enjoy. It's nice.
I wanted to report back on the crow's nest. I know that was something that you, Councilman Richardson, asked that we bring that back. We did have it reviewed by IMU as far as utility rates. And I've left a voicemail message, actually a message for Ms. Crow to get in contact with her. I've not been able to connect yet. But in general, nothing looks amiss. All the utility rates look fine. Everything is being charged appropriately. It's just that sometimes we utilize services and sometimes we don't. I'm almost an empty nester and won't have kids in the school district, but I still have an obligation to pay for property taxes for the school district. We are a community, and the greater good is to make sure that we take care of the storm drainage issues throughout the entire community, because we all benefit from having access from fire and police and everything else that we need to. And so it is essential that we have equal and fair treatment under the law on that regard. So I will communicate that with her and try to express and answer any questions, express that to her and answer any questions that she may have. It's been an extremely tough week on the square. We've had a lot of issues and impacts when it came to water breaks and gas breaks and different things that have taken place on the square. It's a tough working environment. We do need to have patience because we have a limited pool of employees and it's difficult for the contractors and whatnot. That doesn't mean that there's a lack of accountability. And so accountability is moving forward. But I wanted to extend appreciation to IMU, especially for their work, to our city staff for those things. And then and this is where maybe I might step on toes a little bit, but I just want to express appreciation to Charlie DeSalle this week. He is one of the most exceptional community development directors that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. Fantastic employee. And the city of Indianola should be honored and grateful to have him as an employee of our community. And some of the comments on Facebook were disappointing, to say the least. And I think they're undeserving. And I just want to extend publicly my appreciation to him and collectively that we stand behind him and the work that he's doing under a tough environment. He's got a tough job and he's doing great, and a great relationship with the businesses out there. And we have a joint meeting with IMU coming up on the 22nd, a week from tonight. So some good things are coming together there. So that's all I have to report tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlie, as well too. I need a first and second motion to enter into closed session in accordance with Iowa Code Section 21.51 J to discuss the purchase of sale of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for the property or reduce the price of the governmental body would receive for that property.
So moved as read.
Second.
Jackie.
Councilmember Parker,
Aye.
Dalby,
Aye.
Schroeder. Aye. Richardson,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Right, we do have a closed session once we come back. I'm not sure how long this will last, but we'll open the door in our closed session or our study session this evening is in regards to fireworks. So thank you.
That's all.
Yes.
Super Chief Chair and Tia. Yes, I'm sorry. I kind of combined a few of their numbers into the chart here for communities where we had data for both police and fire, so you can see it, and if fireworks are allowed or not. There's some comment on the data.
So-
Yep, she
so-
did that.
Long story short, there have been a lot of concerns coming from the community with regard to fireworks. And the greatest concerns are coming from those who are veterans or have experience with PTSD and those who are pet owners. There are calls for service both for police and fire, and they're both within communities that have fireworks allowed, and they're in communities that do not have fireworks allowed. And because of the number of emails sent to individual council members, as well as the survey that was conducted in the paper, it was felt that research was warranted so that we could bring that information back to you for you to consider whichever direction you see fit moving forward. Both Interim Chief Shear and Chief Chia are here over there and have provided data, and our city clerk has provided data as well for your review and consideration. How's that?
I would add one thing. I did send an email, like you all saw, or I think today, that Kathy Clinic and her husband Butch are circulating a petition. It was on the east side neighborhood over there. They have 180 signatures from the Emerson neighborhood that basically supports what their language says. If I can pull it up here, we, the undersigned, emphatically urge the Indianola City Council to outlaw the use of fireworks within city limits of Indianola. We strongly object to the abusive noise, air pollution, which causes adverse psychological and physiological effects to humans, our pets, and wildlife. They do have 180 signatures. They didn't want to present that yet because they wanted to see if they could collect more, but that's just more information. So, go ahead. You wanna say?
And just a couple brief comments. I got 0 phone calls from happy citizens about the great fireworks displays. I did get,
But you're not going.
4 or
You never hear
5,
the
no.
good news.
And they were what City Manager Reeves said. They were a couple PTSD, but a lot of unhappy pet owners. So, and that's not reflected in that, but I did get 4 or 5 of those phone calls.
Did you say that this was just this year's data?
Yes.
Okay.
Last year, I think the number was a little higher. I ran it, but I don't remember.
It was
70 something. It was pretty comparable, not too far out of line. This year was a little bit less.
So looking at some of that, so citations issued are very minimal in any community.
1%.
Yeah, so I would assume it's very difficult to issue a citation because you can't touch them. You can show up after the call.
Yes, there are a couple things going on there. One is we get called, it's already over. Unless there's a neighbor, someone that witnessed it willing to say, it was that guy. No one wants
Right.
that in their neighborhoods. What they
Right.
want is just the noise to stop.
Well, how will that be different though? If we say, okay, they're banned and they're legal in Iowa, people are still gonna do it, right? And then you're not gonna be able to issue a citation anymore than you can now, correct?
Des Moines, no. West Des Moines, no.
Right.
Highest numbers up there.
I think as long as they're legal in Iowa, I'm afraid that it's gonna be.
What has Clyde done? I'm curious. Not counted their calls because there's no way in.
Didn't respond to the survey? I don't know.
There's no
I
way.
don't know.
in the World that they
Right,
have.
they didn't get 0.
What key?
No.
Zero.
There's no way they could.
When I was on the MPO meeting, we did, that was an issue of discussion, and I don't know if that link got sent out to everybody on the discussion that happened in that MPO meeting after the 4th of July. Everybody talked about all the things. Waukee talked about it, Des Moines, Johnston, and then they all, I think, let's see, it was Johnston, they don't allow it. It's had all kinds of issues, but Perry, I know they're a smaller community, but what they did this last year was they did ban fireworks within the city limits. And I don't know what they did to their ordinance to tighten things up, but they issued 5 citations like the week before the 4th of July. And that's all they issued. And they said it was pretty quiet. Now, I don't know how many calls they had, but they tightened up their ordinance in the sense that they could issue a citation, whether it was noise or whatever the case was. That might be something to kind of consider as well, if we can talk to the mayor, if they're the police or whatever, and find out what they did. I think my concern would be the pre-4th of July stuff. I had a gentleman, no longer lives there, but he lived there for 2 years next to me that was 28 years old and served 3 tours. He's 31 now, but served 3 tours and 2 tours in Afghanistan and 1 in Iraq. And he had PTSD pretty badly, and he had 5 dogs for support. But he had relatives that had a farm out in the country, and that he would go there. But the ones that really got him were the ones that, and you probably know this too, with some of the folks you dealt with, were the ones that were before the 4th of July or the 3rd of July or whenever we set the dates on. So I don't know if there's a way we maybe could tighten up the days that we don't allow it, and let people know that you're gonna get a citation if, you know, this happens. And I know it's real tough. I don't know if we can do that, but I'm just wondering if that might be a way to do it.
So 2 things. I looked again before the meeting here about the statistics and when, so the tents open June 13th by state code. And that's when the fireworks complaints start.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the suggestions from the officers this evening was, why don't we do something legislatively locally here that at the point of sale, the information about the fireworks has to be posted. And
Yeah.
I'm just throwing this out here now. I haven't talked to Ben or anyone else about it.
Yeah.
But that came up tonight when I was talking to some of the officers, because what the officers are getting from what I'm hearing is, we didn't know. We didn't know the time. We didn't know the time.
Right.
Not everyone's on social media, so, I mean, it's definitely possible, but at the point of sale, it's right there in front of them. Just a suggestion, an idea.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah. And maybe we can check into that. I know Doug's not here, but find out, you know, I'm sure we could do that within the state statute. I don't know why we couldn't, but there could be something there.
We're not hindering them from selling
Right.
the fireworks. All we're just posting information.
Well, I think the other thing too, like I said, though, if we could find a way maybe to tighten that up a little bit and do issue some citations prior to the date, maybe that might, and what the mayor said in the Perry is word got around really quickly, we're gonna enforce this. So it made a big difference, he thought. That was his opinion.
Okay.
Just a thought. And
I can definitely give them a call.
yeah.
Yeah. My
Yeah,
only
I know.
concern is that, again, the law is the law. I mean, you can only do so much. You can't write them a citation if there's no way to prove, you know, I mean, that's the biggest problem you have, is unless neighbors are willing to stand up and point their finger at them in court,
Right.
it's really difficult to do. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I got it.
Because possession, whereas possession used to be
Right,
illegal,
yeah.
now possession is not illegal. So
Right.
back in the day, you catch them with fireworks, you could write them a ticket for possession of fireworks. So that's gone.
Well, again, maybe that's a
And you took
question.
them away from us.
Yeah, maybe that's a question
Yes,
we
we did.
can ask Doug, is there some way we can tighten that up, or you can do your research and figure out what they've done?
Yeah.
Yeah, check with Perry. I don't know, maybe they're just writing them and nobody challenges it and they pay the fine. But you know, whatever.
I guarantee the people in this community will.
Oh,
Anytime
yeah.
you're gonna do something, there's somebody in this community will challenge.
In this
Trust me.
community, anything that gets on social media gets a following. So if it's, we don't like fireworks today, then it's that. So we have more calls than would be normally expected.
Right. The flip side of that is, though, I know the city put it out, the police department put it out, we all shared it, and we still have people saying, I didn't know when it was there.
Right, no, I'm saying the things that when it goes negative on social media.
Yeah, well,
in terms of complaining about it, so. That
seems to grow legs of its own
Oh.
sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, that's an easy excuse too, but I get it. I know where we are. I know that.
Well, that's the answer that stops the conversation.
Yeah.
If they say we didn't know.
Right.
But now if you got the information there, that's a different story.
Right, right.
Well,
I
as
agree.
a sign maker, that doesn't.
No, but you can point to it at least.
Right, yeah. I will say this though, and I'm not in that cesspool of Facebook and all the other social media stuff, so I have no idea, but I got 4 emails.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and then I got no phone calls. I got, you know, I get the animal thing. My dog flipping goes berserk, but so does my dog go even more berserk with the balloons. And you're not gonna see me trying to get a 2,000-foot red zone over the state, over the city of Indianola, you know, I mean, so it's, I think our problem this year, I really, as I sat and listened to it a little bit, I think the problem this year was the fact that it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that probably pushed it, because it seemed like on Monday it wasn't as bad as what it was
No,
on
and
Friday.
it goes to zero right after that.
Yeah,
It
so-
really did.
I think, and I do think it seemed like this year, maybe they followed the time a little bit better. It seemed like the years previous that I know in my neighborhood, it seemed like they were going way beyond. This year, they pretty much shut it down.
They shut it down after. It was the early,
Yes.
one of the people that called me, and I won't say her name, but she made a very valid point to me over the phone. She goes, listen, I know when the days are, and this was an animal issue.
Mhm.
And I can put my dog on doggy downers for those 4 days, but I can't plan for
Right.
the beginning, middle of June,
Right.
and it's
Right.
every night. So, I mean, it's valid point.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't know.
Okay, maybe come back with some information that you have from somebody, you know, from
Yeah.
Gary or something, and see
Yeah.
if we can tighten that up a little bit. I mean, I don't know, and I will encourage the folks to get the petition if they want.
I do want to bring up one other thing though, too, and this is something I think somehow, if we're gonna, if it continues on, I think we also need to urge the community to pick up their stuff. I think we've lost respect. I mean, I think ultimately that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the respect for other man.
In so many
And,
ways.
and people, you know, firing them early or whatever, but then just leaving trash in the streets and around and stuff. And I said I'd threaten to shut it all down tomorrow if they didn't pick up the stuff, you know, I mean, just because to me, that's almost as big of a problem as just having. it in
There's so
general.
much other trash that
Yeah,
needs to be.
I mean, I know Christina's got a picture from her neighborhood of stacked on the curbside, you
For
know,
someone else to pick up.
yeah.
That brings up one question I was gonna ask AP. AP, I noticed there's some folks that have kind of a partial cul-de-sac, and they were using that as to fire off their fireworks. Not a chemist, not an engineer, but does that damage the concrete in any way, shape, or form?
So
Or lessen the life of it, I guess?
anything in the public right of way should be restricted only for public right of way purposes for pavement or construct. Yes, it can do damage to anything, concrete, any chemical fire could do damage, but more than that, the right of way is only for the purposes of public improvements, utilities, things like that, not meant for.
Maybe that's some way too, because I know sometimes in the early ones, they set that stuff off in the street. Maybe that's something we can look at. You know, an ordinance that, you can hand them a citation for shooting it off in the street or whatever. But I guess from my perspective, I'm sympathetic with everything. I don't feel like there's support to get rid of it, but I think at the same time, we should be able to find ways to curtail it when we can before it's actually can be used. Anything else, folks? Anything from anybody else? Chief?
You know my opinion.
I know.
Yep.
I know.
Sorry, we didn't
It's all noted.
And it's, you know what, I'm okay with the commercial
Yeah,
events because they have to be licensed
right.
Yes.
and, they're professional. They know their business. Do they have mistakes? Sure they do. And that makes the media.
Yeah.
We see the stuff after the fact, so we respond because of an injury or a fire. And you're right, the debris is more of a haphazard or a hazard to us because it's left smoldering.
Yeah. And that would raise a question too. If we had a situation where we're as dry as we were before we got any rain here over the 4th of July and that kind of a weekend. Did you issue a fire ban? You mentioned that before I left. Did we issue one?
No, in fact, they took a vote today. I have not heard or
Okay.
seen what the vote was.
Okay,
This rain's not gonna help.
no.
And we're going into harvest, which is,
Yeah. Well, my question was gonna be this, though, if we got to a point where it was so dry that it would become a real danger, I think that would be an issue. that we really have to consider.
Right, and if it was as dry as it is now over the 4th,
Yeah,
yes, we can implement a ban.
okay. Okay.
That doesn't mean you'll stop them.
No,
but what it'll do
But I
is-
get your point,
it-
yes.
It will stop the people that
Yes,
do follow the
definitely.
law.
Yeah.
You know.
We would
And-
hope
and
so.
if there's a-
department, you're not a police department.
That's true.
I like where you're going.
All right. I just don't know if there's support to do it. So,
I think the problem with it would be if you banned it, then you'd hear from way more people than what you're hearing from in terms of.
I don't know.
I think judging from the noise, there are a lot of people who like them. Can I go down?
We also could shorten the time frame too.
Mhm.
Yeah, you
And
have,
look
you
at-
have
we
three
have- we
days-
have
you
3
3 days right now. and
Yeah.
then you have one for New Year's.
Right,
Right.
right. We could shorten the time frame, and
Yeah.
that's a good start.
For the New Year's. I mean,
I've heard them in New Year's, but if it's
It's very.
five below
few.
zero, there's not
Right,
many out there shooting them off.
Exactly.
I looked, we have one complaint.
Did we, on New Year's? Okay.
Checking.
All right, so we are not making a decision. Maybe this is something that we want to talk about. To get some more information. Can we get somebody from legal and talk about some of that stuff? Bring it back to another meeting. We'll talk about it then. Okay.
Super.
All righty. We are adjourned.
Already?